History is usually written by the winners, not by the losers. And the way in which the history of slavery has been represented, for the most part, is as abolition, the triumph of abolition. So we're trying to think again about that way of writing the history and put the whole slavery business and the wealth it produced and the people who were involved in it back into British history.
Bittersweet, cotton sugar for rape and bloody murder. Bittersweet, slave owners compensated, slaves lost and disowned and violated. Change. Bittersweet, cotton sugar for rape and bloody murder. Change. Bittersweet, slave owners compensated, slaves lost, disowned and violated. Change. Hey, yo, right, yeah, wordsmith master, insight on them British slave masters. First known Africans, commemorated 3rd century UK Columbia, to their then being Afrikaners embedded in the Roman army, fighting side by side, pride and glory. Black royal troopers in UK to the back then, more understanding, calm of one another. Then came Ashanti's gold, and Africans took a long stronghold. Still, cotton molesters and pretty much everything else they considered precious. Bristol was once the world's top port. Colston had money for his city, improving, distributing. All made money from some serious abusing. Churches and halls, museums. But Liverpool was to outscore less traffic. World's #1 trading port. Whiteness, the power, seats in parliament they brought. The like-minded, the minds they corrupted, they torn. Bittersweet, cotton sugar for rape and bloody murder. Bittersweet, slave owners compensated, slaves lost and disowned and violated. Change. Bittersweet, cotton sugar for rape and bloody murder. Change. Bittersweet, slave owners compensated, slaves lost, disowned and violated. Change. With the British around the world, #1 established, sips and whips, 6x4s. Space you ain't getting no more for the 6-week long haul. The sick and dead, the weak thrown overboard. Just like the cattle, them locked up, beating persistent runaways, limbs taken, lips and hits, left hanging half alive, wounds open wide. Molesters them wounds and grazes. Flies all day, mosquitoes all night. These human beings in living white. Alright, shit original, lyrical, historical horror at war. Slave stripped of history, identity. Watch the West gain status, prosperity, barbarically. Barclays, Nat West, HSBC, nothing but blood slave money. Nothing's black and white. Most of the Bedford, Wards, Randalls and more are united ancestry. Today the names divide, black and white, rich and poor, but still intertwined. Family tree, weave between the lines. Inside.
In 1833, when slavery was abolished in the British Caribbean and in Mauritius and the Cape, £20 million was paid in compensation to the slave owners because they were seen as having lost what was called their property, the enslaved men and women who they had bought.
Bittersweet, cotton sugar for rape and bloody murder. Bittersweet, slave owners compensated, slaves lost and disowned and violated. Change. Bittersweet, cotton sugar for rape and bloody murder. Bittersweet. Slave owners compensated, slaves lost their souls and violated. Change.
And of that £20 million, which was paid out of taxpayers' money, nearly 10 million stayed in Britain. So there were a very substantial number of slave owners in Britain who made substantial claims on that money and therefore had a large cash influx at that time. The poet, Elizabeth Barrett, who became Elizabeth Barrett Browning, was the daughter of a very significant Jamaican slave owner, and she had very, very complicated feelings about slavery and slave ownership, and she was not sympathetic to slavery, but she was very well aware that the family money came from slavery, and indeed she inherited money on that basis. And she wrote a poem in the 1840s, which she wrote, in fact, for the American abolitionists, called The Runaway Slave at Pilgrim's Point. And in that poem, she tries to imagine being black. So there are many powerful lines in the poem, in the voice of an enslaved woman. I am black. And this is a woman who is raped by her white master, bears a child, cannot bear the fact that her child is the product of rape, kills the child, and calls on the enslaved to rebel. So it's a very, very dramatic poem. Yet this woman, Elizabeth Barrett Browning, who imagines all this, her own life is made comfortable financially by her family wealth. And she was not opposed at all to the principle of compensation. She thought that it was right that the slave owners were compensated because property was property.